and we're very honored to have him here today. I had the privilege of meeting Seth at our latest incentive trip to Hawaii. It was so awesome talking with him and taking away some great nuggets of wisdom. You know, I heard a statistic yesterday by the DSA, which is the Direct Selling Association, that said 63% of Gen Ys were open to look at an opportunity to make additional money within the next 12 months. That's so incredible. That basically means that 63% of Gen Ys are open to what we do. So we're absolutely stoked to have a Gen Y joining us here today to share his knowledge onto us. I'm going to hand it over to Seth now so we can get started. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Seth Campbell.
Brandon, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good.
Audio's good? Wonderful.
Yep.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but it is amazing that you're in Australia. You're not even in the same day as me. It's Thursday for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're literally on the other side of the planet, and here we are talking face to face. Isn't that neat? I love technology, man. There was a day when I had a Toyota Prius, my second, third, and fourth year in this business. I had a Toyota Prius, and I had people all over the country, and I would get in that thing, and I got it just for this business, and I would drive everywhere. I would drive all across the country, and you know, for two, three people at a time. You know what I mean? So it's nice that we have technology now. Not that, you know, the face-to-face is always still important, you know, being in someone's living room, but the opportunity to connect like this, like we're all in the same room, even though you're on this other side of the world, is pretty neat. So thank you for having me on. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, G, for getting me the info and inviting me on this thing today. And I'm not going to take a lot of your time, you guys. First of all, I want to say one thing. I really, really appreciate you. I messaged Gigi earlier and asked if we could push it back an hour because I was going to be an hour later. I double booked myself. And so I really appreciate you guys being flexible and allowing this to take place 1 hour later. So thank you very much for that. I'm not going to be very long, you guys. I'm going to share with you the same thing I share when I speak to people out here about this business and talk about the things that, you know, that stand out to me and really the reason why I do it. I'll tell you a little bit about my background and my story and what pulled me into this business. It's probably similar to what a lot of you were drawn in by. But for me, you guys, what it really came down to was I was 24 years old when I was introduced to this business. And I don't think that there's anything unique about necessarily being 24 because I've seen 24-year-olds who are entrepreneurial and I've seen 24-year-olds who are closed-minded. I've seen 48-year-olds who are entrepreneurial and 48-year-olds who are closed-minded. But what happened for me at that time in my life was that there was a few things that I had made some observations about that really, really disturbed me, that really bothered me. And the first was this. And I always say in this country, in the United States, I'm willing to bet it's probably the same in Australia. 97% of the population are living paycheck to paycheck. That's just the bottom line. They're living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. There's no real financial stability. They're one disaster away from being wiped out financially. And that's not half. That's not 65%. It's not 75%. It's 97%. And the thing that's worse than that, in my opinion, is that about that same percentage, 97% of the population spend the bulk of their time doing something that they don't want to do. They might like it. They might enjoy it. It's not their first choice. You know, people will say to me all the time, Seth, I love my job. And I say, that's great. It's better to love your job than hate your job, obviously. But I'd be willing to bet if I gave you $100 million, you probably would not be going back to work tomorrow, right? Because there's something else you'd rather do. There's other people you'd rather spend your time with. You'd probably rather be with your family and friends than your coworkers and your boss. But you have to do that. You've got what you're essentially doing is you're giving your best 8 hours every day, your best 40 hours every week, and that's actually optimistic. Some people work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, but you're giving your best time, the most valuable time, not to your family, not to your hobbies, not to your passions, not to your dreams, but to your job. And the reason you're doing that is because of the paycheck to paycheck problem. And so at 24, I guess I just came to realize like this is my life. This is what I'm doing too. You know, I'm heading down the same path. And I got a phone call, and the phone call was actually from my dad. And he said, hey, I'm gonna put you on the phone with the guy. I'm gonna call you. He says, I'm gonna call you in 10 minutes. Answer your phone. He goes, there's something I'm doing. This is all he said. There's something I'm doing that you need to do with me. It's a business opportunity. You need to do this thing with me. I'm gonna call you back with a guy named Marcel. Just answer your phone. Trust me, you want to hear him. And that was pretty much it. No information. I think he hung up after he said all that stuff. I don't think he gave me a chance to object. And sure enough, when he called back, of course I answered. And I spoke to Marcel for about 10 minutes. I don't remember anything he said. But I remember a feeling I had that I had to do this. I remember getting off the phone and thinking, you know what? Because at that time in my life, he was the most successful person I had ever spoken to. The reason I say that is because he was a gentleman that had made millions of dollars, right? So financially speaking, he had made a lot of money. But what impressed me more was he introduced me to something. Up to that point in my life, everything I had ever done was about linear income. Every single dollar I had ever earned, I had to go do something, physically be somewhere for. It was tied directly to my efforts. And at that time, at 24, for the first time in my life, I was being introduced to a guy who lived on royalty income. He made a lot of money, but what was more impressive than that was that he spent his time with his family. He did the stuff that he wanted to do rather than what he had to do. He didn't have a job. He was unemployed. He was financially secure, but he had time freedom. And this concept of royalty income, the fact that this guy went out and he did something once and got paid and paid and paid and paid for, that was a new concept to me. And so I got off the phone. I remember being excited enough that I was like, I've got to give this thing a shot. I have to do it. I had all the fear and the apprehension that everybody else has. You know, I was 24 years old. I was broke. I'm not good with my words. I don't know a lot of people. I don't have any credibility. Like, all of these things were going through my head. But I had a reason to do it. And the thing that I'm grateful for was that for whatever reason, I felt like one reason to do it was enough to overcome 100 reasons not to. The reason I say I'm grateful for that is because I have found over the last 8 years in this industry that most people, my opinion, you'll see that's about 97% of people, they will let the reasons not to do something actually stop them from doing something. You know, they'll say something like, well, it may not work. That's a terrible reason not to try. It might not work. Of course it might not work. You know, Kobe Bryant was once asked why he was so good at the game-winning clutch shot, you know, the buzzer beater at the end of the game to win the game. And his response was, because I don't care if I miss. You know, think of all the people that get nervous about missing, so they never take a shot. And I have found that most people, if they have just 2 or 3 reasons not to do something, they actually won't do it. And I'm grateful that for whatever reason, I guess I had a bit of an impulsive mind, that I just had one reason to do it. And that one reason was time freedom. I knew I would never get time freedom from a job. That was not possible. I knew that. No matter what my degree was in, I would never have time freedom from traditional employment or from owning a small business. Time freedom does not live in those worlds. And so I decided to give it a shot. I was 24 years old, you guys, and I'm going to just make a long story short for you. It took me, in the space of about 9 months, I was able to quit school and pursue this full time. Another 9 months after that, I became a 6-figure income earner in this industry. And my income grew and grew and grew. By the time I was about 27 or 28, I was in a position where I had a monthly income that was exceeding what the average salary was of the people that were teaching me at my school, the professors that were teaching me, some of which actually told me not to quit school. I was crazy for doing this thing. I got to the point by 27 where I was getting paid more per month by this company, by LifeVantage, than what any of those professors were making in a year. And my income was royalty income. It was residual income. I'm 32 now. I don't wake up to alarm clocks. I don't believe in alarm clocks. They're against my religion. I don't have a job. I'm kidding about the religion comment, but I don't have a job. I don't have a boss. I'm completely unemployable. I love this industry. And the reason I'm here right now, the reason I'm talking to you guys in Australia is because I believe 100% in this industry's power to free people from the 97%. And what's unfortunate to me is that I see people more and more in the United States, and it might be the same way in Australia. But in the U.S., I'm seeing more and more that we used to talk about 65 as the retirement age. I'm seeing more and more people that are hitting their 65, 70, 75, and then they're working at Walmart. They're working in fast food. They're taking the jobs that teenagers used to take. Now they're going to people who are 70, 75 years old because they don't have retirement, because pension plans aren't really there the way people think they're going to be. And I feel like people are getting gypped. I feel like that traditional 40 to 50 plan of working your life away, literally spending 50 years of your life, a half of a century, and the thing you will do most is work. Think about that for just a second. Other than sleep, work is the thing you'll do the most of for half of your life if you live to be 100. You know, if you live to be 80, and it's more than half of your life, will be dominated by work. And I see, and for me, if you do that, if you spend 50 hours working at anything, you should be done, right? You should be done. You should be free to go and sail the world and see Europe and do all the stuff you want to do. That's not the case. And it bothers me. And so what I love about this industry is that it's capturing more and more people. There's 160,000 people right now over here in the U.S. I'm not sure what the number is in Australia, but just in the U.S. alone, 160,000 people a week are joining a network marketing, a direct sales company of some sort. Okay, right now, there are 20 million active distributors over here in my country, 20 million people who are distributors in this industry. And by the way, of the 20 million, 70% of them are millennials between the ages of 18 and 35. That says a lot. You guys, what that tells me is that the young people are looking at the path in front of them, and they're going, "That, you know what, that didn't work for Grandpa. Grandpa worked for 50 years and he had nothing to show for it. He worked for 50 years. He worked hard. He was a good man. And then when he retired, Mom and Dad had to take care of him financially. I'm not doing that. That's not my path." And they're entrepreneurial minded, and that's why, you know, the statistic that Brandon talked about, that statistic is very telling. Why are people more entrepreneurial minded today? And yeah, you say it's Gen X and Gen Y and millennials. I even think you could say it's the generation, it's the population in general is becoming more entrepreneurial because they're realizing that it just doesn't work. If you want freedom, if you want real security, if you want to own your time, royalty income is the only income. You have to find a way to chase royalty income. And what direct sales is, what network marketing is, simply put, it's the best way in the world for the average person like me, an ordinary person, to create royalty income. I'm not a musician. I'm not an author. I can't create royalty income through the platinum sale of an album or anything like that. But in network marketing, I create a lot of royalty income. And so I started this thing at 24, and it's completely changed my life, you guys. And so there's a couple of questions you have to ask yourself. And I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to answer them real quick and just give you some stuff to think about. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brandon and Charlotte. There's a couple of things you have to ask yourself if you're going to look within this industry, if you're going to look in the direct sales industry, the network marketing industry, as potentially a place where you could free yourself financially and with your time. There are some questions you have to ask yourself. First and foremost, do people make it? You know, that's the first question. Do people make it in this industry? The obvious answer is yes. Of course they do. You know, we know people who make a lot of money in this industry. There's plenty of them. You guys, you can just go Google the top 200 income earners in network marketing, and you're going to see 200 people with incomes way in excess of what the average doctor or lawyer could make in 5 years. People making ridiculous amounts of money, you know, and so obviously, yes, people make it. I still have a few friends, unbelievably, who will swear that these things don't work. That's like swearing the sun doesn't rise in the east. You know what I mean? There's some people will literally walk outside at noon and go, "It's dark outside," you know, whatever. Obviously, yes, people make it in this industry, right? You don't have to believe. You can just look and see. People make it in this industry. But the second question is this: does everybody make it? Obviously, the answer is no, right? Your friends that tell you it doesn't work, they didn't make it. So some make it, many don't. Here's the interesting part. What most people do is when you have two groups, people that succeeded, people that failed, what most people do is they're going to go like this and turn to the ones that failed and say, "Hey, what should I think? Please tell me what to think here." And that doesn't make any sense to me. The third question is, if you can turn your attention to the ones who made it, the people who succeeded. Third question is this: the ones who succeeded, what did they find and what did they do? That's what you have to ask yourself. The ones who succeeded, the ones who are making money, the ones who are free, what did they look for? What did they actually find in an opportunity? Is that important? Can I just jump into any old company and be good to go? Or do I need to look for something, some specific things? What if I could model my behavior after theirs? What if I could find somebody who was a 6-figure income earner or a 7-figure income earner, and I could just ask them those two questions? I could say, "Hey, listen, what did you find? And then when you found it, what'd you do with it?" And then if I could just look for what they looked for and then do what they did, I should be able to create their results. Here's what was inspiring for me when I got off the phone with Marcel and then when I met some of my other mentors in this industry. What was inspiring for me was this: they were no smarter than me. They were no better than me. They were ordinary people, but they had this massive success in this industry. When somebody's done something, what that means is that it's possible. And if it's possible, what that means is that you can do it. It's the bottom line. They're not different than you. There might be exceptions to that in the world of athletics, right? I can't do what LeBron James does. I can't do that. I'm not 6'8". I have a terrible vertical, and I don't know how to dribble a basketball. I can't do that. But in business, I can do anything anybody else has done. And so can you, by the way. Most of the world's most successful people are not any smarter than you. I don't care who you are. It's just the facts, right? They just have a different set of beliefs about what they can accomplish. And network marketing, better than any industry I've ever seen, will instill in you those beliefs that you can accomplish the same thing. And so I'm going to talk about real quick 5 things that they found, okay? Like I said, there's 2 parts to the question. What did they find? And then when they found it, what did they do? The what did they do part, that's called training. That's what you're going to get at your training events. I'm not sure when your next training event is happening out there in Australia, but whenever it is, wherever it is, be there, because that's where you learn what to do. I'm going to talk about what did they find. There's 5 things you have to find in this industry, I believe, in order to put yourself in the best possible position for success. Now, here's what's unique about what you're going to hear about tonight. The biggest stroke of luck for me in this industry was that my first venture in the network marketing industry happened to be in a company that actually can check all of the boxes better than any company that I've been able to find in the 8 years since. Not that I've looked for other companies, but I've looked at all of the other companies because I've become obsessed with the industry. I've become a student of the industry. I love learning about the history of the industry, the big companies that have gone before, the up-and-comers. I love to watch this industry around us. And what I'm going to tell you is that you're in a position right now where you're about to hear about a company that checks the boxes with flying colors. And these are in no particular order, but number one is timing, okay? Timing is kind of a big deal, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's the end-all, be-all, and that if you're early, you'll be rich, and if you're late, you'll never make a penny, of course, but it's kind of the great equalizer. Think about it this way for just a second. What if you could go back in time 2 years ago and invest $10,000 with Apple? How rich would you be today, 2 years later? You wouldn't be. As a matter of fact, you could have invested in Apple in the last couple of years and lost money, okay? What if you could take that same $10,000 and go back to 1982, a couple of years before they launched the first MacBook or Macintosh, and invest 10 grand in Apple in 1982? How rich would you be today? You would be a multi-millionaire. Okay, what's the difference? Apple's a better company today. The products are better today. It's a higher value company today. What's the difference, you guys? Timing. Timing is the ability to recognize an opportunity before it becomes obvious to everybody else. Let me ask you a question. Is Google going to be pretty big, do you think? What about Amazon? You think Amazon's going to be big? It's a dumb question because it's obvious, right? Hindsight's 20/20. It doesn't pay very well. You guys, you have to have foresight. You have to be able to see something before everybody else sees it. That's where fortunes are made. So timing is important. You guys, here's the second one. Product. Okay, what are the products? And there's some questions you have to ask yourself within that, but think like a producer, not a consumer. Here's where a lot of people get messed up, is they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know how to think like one. They're still thinking like the consumer. A consumer's thoughts are, would I use that product? Well, do I believe in it? Will it make me feel good? All of those thoughts, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to believe in your product, but you have to understand producers don't think that way. Okay, they just don't. Producers look at a product and they go, will the masses like this product? Is it different than everything else out there? Will it be around for a long time? Will people spend money for it? Can we get millions of people to buy this product? That's how a producer thinks. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter if I have some kind of hallelujah experience with the product. If it's not marketable to the masses, I'm not interested. If it is, I'm in. That's the way a producer thinks. And so when you look at a product, you have to look from that standpoint. What I'm going to tell you real quick, I'm going to give you a very, very, very brief history lesson about where our product actually comes from. This might be the biggest piece of the puzzle right here, okay? First and foremost, you guys, back in 2005, there was a scientist out of the University of Colorado in Denver named Dr. Joe McCord. And Dr. McCord, he's a world-renowned scientist. He's been nominated for the Nobel Prize. He was awarded the Elliott Cresson Medal, which has actually only been given out maybe a dozen times to people like Alexander Marie Curie, who discovered the antibiotic. I mean, it's a very high honor, the highest honor you can probably get as a scientist other than a Nobel Prize, which he was nominated for. This guy is the real deal. He's been published a lot. He's actually got an enzyme there's an enzyme in your body that we can pull out in a test tube and measure it in McCord units named after this man. And so everyone has a little bit of McCord in them, I guess, technically. But anyways, he, with a couple of other gentlemen, Dr. McCord and a couple of other gentlemen, developed a product, 5 all-natural ingredients that did something that's never been done before. Now, I want you to understand, again, being in front of a growth curve. I want you to think about what happens when industries are disrupted. I'm going to take a slight sidetrack, okay? When was the last time you were in somebody's house and they had to get up and go answer the phone that was on their wall? When was the last time you actually saw that, like a landline? When was the last time you put quarters into a payphone? Okay? It's funny because, you know, the point I'm making obviously is that this thing right here, the smartphone, has completely disrupted the telecommunications industry. So much so that now it's to the point where if I see somebody texting on their phone and they're actually pushing like real buttons, I'm like, man, how old is that phone? Goodness gracious, you know, we don't even have buttons anymore, you guys. It's all touchscreen. And so it's amazing how much things have changed. Because I remember the day when I used to have to grab the phone off the wall, and if there was a girl that I liked, I had to call her house and talk to her dad, which always sucked. He'd be like, hi, is so-and-so there? And you're like, who's this, you know? And he'd ask you how your day is going. You're like, never mind, you'd hang up. And so that is just how telecommunications have changed, and just because the industry has completely been disrupted by this right here, by the smartphone, okay? Who do you think made the most money when that happened? People who knew about it before it was obvious to the rest of the world, right? And so tens of billions, that's with a B, tens of billions of dollars being spent on antioxidant supplements. The anti-aging industry is a really big industry, you guys. It's not a small industry. Tens of billions of dollars are spent on antioxidant supplements, okay? Here's the kicker. They don't actually do much by way of anti-aging. There's value and benefits to antioxidant, and there's plenty of good supplements out there. But they're marketed to be an anti-aging product, and they can measure your blood, and it doesn't make a difference, okay? We know that. There's actually a book called The Antioxidant Myth that covers that and breaks it down. Dr. McCord discovers a product, helps develop a product, 5 all-natural ingredients, none of which do anything remarkable on their own, but they found these 5 ingredients together, they have the synergistic effect where they actually do something completely different. It's not an antioxidant supplement. It's a nutrigenomic. Nutrigenomics is a study of how nutrition can actually affect your genetics. Fascinating stuff. So here's what this thing does. You put this pill in your mouth, and it actually turns on a gene in your body. You have a gene in your body that's off. It's dormant. This thing turns it on. It's not always. It's on when you're a kid. Kids grow, but they don't age. But as we become adults, this gene kind of turns itself off. This pill turns it back on. And now all of a sudden he found that, and this is his claim he made, after 30 days on this product, you can't distinguish between an 80-year-old and a 20-year-old by looking at their blood. That's remarkable, you guys. It's never been done before. Immediate skepticism from everybody because it's never been done before. Therefore, it must be impossible, right? It must be impossible to actually take an 80-year-old and have them aging at the rate of a 20-year-old. There's no way that's possible. ABC Primetime is it's a United States news, major media outlet. And they decide we're going to do an investigative report. So they show up with a camera crew and a guy named John Quinones, who's a nationally recognized television host. They pull his blood, got the blood of a 50-something-year-old man, and then they put him on Protandim for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks on this product, they draw his blood again on national television, and guess what? He had the blood of a child, okay? It actually worked for the first time ever in a human being. As a result of that, you guys, major medical universities started to come forward. We had places like Harvard Med School, the American Heart Association, the National Institute of Aging come out and fund their own independent studies validating what this thing does. You guys, to put it very, very simply, rather than going into all these different studies, say, here's what I'm going to tell you. Right now in the realm of anti-aging, which is an industry of tens of billions of dollars, right now, you guys, we have the iPhone, and everybody still thinks payphones are the only way. This is an industry disruptive technology, and over the next 10 years, it will become obvious that Nerf2 is the way to go. As a matter of fact, there's already major pharmaceutical companies funding studies on how to create drugs that are Nerf2 activating drugs. You guys, and right now there's one nutritional supplement in the world that's actually clinically proven to activate that gene in your body. It's a really big deal, you guys, and it'll be kind of obvious in 10 or 15 years. Not so much right now. And so that's the second thing you have to look at is product. It kind of ties into the first one, timing, right? When you have something that is a breakthrough that nobody knows about yet, that's kind of a big deal. The third one you have to look at is compensation. How much will I actually get paid? How much does this thing actually work? Now, I don't have a whiteboard. I can't break down the comp plan for you, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite you to get with the person that got you here and ask them to see the income disclosure statement. As a publicly traded company, we actually disclose how much money the average person makes at each rank. Okay, we've got 12 ranks in the company. I'm going to hit some of the kind of mid ranks, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The average Pro 4 in this company makes about $1,000 a month. How many of you an extra $1,000 a month of mailbox money would make a difference? Okay, the average 5 is over $2,000 a month. The average 6 is making over $5,000 per month. This is royalty income, you guys. You don't get up and go to a job for this. This money is attracted to you. It comes to you. The average 7 is making almost $11,000 per month, you guys. These are significant incomes, but here's what's more significant. I didn't say 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. I said 4, 5, 6, and 7. What's different about us as a company, you guys, aside from the fact that we have a scientifically validated breakthrough product, you guys, what's different about us as a company is that we don't pay large sums of money to the top 2 ranks at the expense of everybody else. We pay a ton of money in the middle, which means you don't have to wait until you're some high rank before you're making good money. For a lot of people, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand a month is plenty of money. And you could be at a rank where nobody in the company really even knows your name yet and still be making significant money. So that's the third thing you have to look at is compensation. Number 4, is it something I can do? What's the system? Is it something that's easy? Is it something that's simple? Is it something I can do? Because the bottom line is, you guys, if it's really, really, really hard, if it's complicated, then nobody can do it. Let me give you a couple of numbers real quick that'll blow your mind, all right? I went out and I talked to probably about 300 people about this opportunity because I was excited about it. I've talked to 300 people. 300 people I've talked to, I'd venture to guess somewhere between 40 to 50 actually wanted to do the business. So I took about 250 rejections, and I got about 40-something signups, enrollments. That's not a lot. Now, here's the crazy part. Of the 40 to 50 people that enrolled, maybe a half a dozen of them actually worked, right? People enrolled and then, it was a hobby for them. Half a dozen worked. Not very successful, guys. How would you feel with 6 builders out of 300 attempts, right? Not very good. However, here's the magic of this business. If what you do is simple and then anybody can do it, then 6 people becomes tens of thousands. My 6 people has turned into 60,000 people in my organization across the United States and in a few other countries as well. I've got 60,000 people in my group from the half a dozen that are actually working. That's the magic of that simplicity thing. Now, let me ask you a question real quick. What if I told you that here's what you got to do? What if I told you that you have to have somebody watch a Zoom like this? What if your job is not to be a salesman, but to be a connector? Because here's what we've got. We've got something that nobody knows about, okay? We've got the smartphone of anti-aging. We have a population of hundreds of millions of people that need to know about it and don't know about it. What if you just have to be a connector? Connect people to the information. Pick up the phone and say, hey, Mark, listen, dude, I'm going to send you something. You need to watch it. This is going to blow your mind. I'm going to send you a little webinar link. Dude, just watch this. It's going to blow your mind. All right? I'll chat with you after. What if it was that simple? Okay? You just connect people to the information. Okay, now there's ways that we do this thing, and I'm not going to go into that. That's the training portion, but here's what I will tell you. That my numbers are proof that if you do it in a simple way, anybody can do it, and a few will turn into a few thousand. So that's the fourth thing you have to ask. Is there a system? Is there a company here that's going to back me up? We're a publicly traded company. We have a system. We've got leaders. We've got an incredible corporate staff, and we have a training program, you guys, that'll show you the track you have to run on to make this thing work. But when all 4 of those things are in place, when you've got timing on your side, you've got a breakthrough product, when you've got an incredible and fair compensation plan, and you know you've got a team that's going to back you up and teach you how to do it and help you do it, when all those 4 boxes are checked, the 5th thing you've got to find, the 5th element is you. Okay, are you right for this? The first 4 tell you, is the opportunity right for me? The last one tells you, am I right for the opportunity? What do I mean by that, you guys? What I mean by that is, I'll put it to you this way, okay? I can't see any of you guys except for Brandon and Charlotte, but those of you that are sitting out there, I want you to take just a minute, close your eyes if it helps, and picture what your life would look like if time and money was not an issue, okay? If you had enough money that it was more than you could spend today, that you didn't have to think and worry about the dollars in your bank account, and you were unemployed because of the money you had, so time is also not an issue, what would you do tomorrow? Okay, who would you spend your time with? Where would you go? Okay, picture what life actually looks like when you don't have to do anything, but you've got plenty of money on the back end. What does life look like? And what I tell people is I say to people, that's your dream life right there. That's actually the life you're supposed to live. The cubicle life is not why you were sent here. That's what society told you to do, and you bought it. But the dream life is what you're supposed to do. It's what you're supposed to live. Why do only 3% of the people ever live that dream life? Because of this last part, guys. The question you have to ask yourself, the dream life you're picturing, is what I'm doing today going to get me there? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then am I willing to get uncomfortable to have it? Am I willing to work hard to get it? Am I willing to do something that maybe I swore I'd never do in order to have that dream life? Now, for me, the answer was I'll walk through a brick wall to have my dream life. That's what my answer was. If you feel the same way, then you do the business. It's very, very simple. That's it. You do the business. If it's, gosh, that'd be nice, but I don't know. I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I'm not sure if I really want to try that. I don't want to get too uncomfortable. Then you don't do the business. You just don't sign up. That's okay. You can be a customer. The product is still great. It's not very expensive. But if your feeling is, I have to take the shot, I've got to give it a shot. If I can taste that lifestyle, if it's really real, if it's not a pipe dream, if it's something I can actually have. And by the way, guys, I'm sitting on here right now as evidence that it's not a pipe dream. Yes, you can have it. And if the feeling is, I'll do anything for that, then you take that sentiment and you enroll in the business tonight and work tomorrow. You don't enroll in the business next week and work next month. You enroll in the business tonight and you work tomorrow. That's what I did. That sense of urgency is what brought me here, you guys. And so with that, you guys, I want to challenge you to, find out in yourself, are you right for this business or not? And if you are, to get yourself in the system and find out the second half of the question. Now, once they found it, because you found it, once they found it, what did they do? Find out what they did and then go do the same thing. You guys, it's a really simple formula. If you find someone who succeeded and then just copy them, you'll get the same results. Successful people are not that unique. They're not. So go become one. All right, that's my challenge to you. So with that, you guys, I want to thank you for inviting me on. Thank you for having me here. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to you, Brandon and Charlotte. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Thanks so much, Seth. That was so awesome. I think you really struck a sore spot in all of us with the dream life. Look, my biggest takeaway from that was that how the world is changing. Like, there's so many older generations sitting out there going, denying, no, nothing's happening. But I think as Gen Ys, we're in the changing world and we're seeing it change around us so we can recognize it further. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really took a lot out of it. Thanks to everyone that joined us on this call. The call is officially wrapped.